A lot of you are asking, with all of these buy-sell agreements that we see out there and all of these, I should say, these transactions happening right now in the retail automotive space, what are some of the things behind the scenes that dealers are looking for when they sell their dealerships, or what buyers are looking for when they buy dealer groups? We're joined today by Sheldon Sandler, who's the founder of Bel Air Partners, who is known in the community of retail automotive for buying and selling, advising dealers nationwide on the sale of their dealerships. So, Sheldon, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
It's my pleasure. As a subscriber for several years now, it's my honor to be on the show today.
Well, to sound like Bartles and James, we appreciate. Thank you for your support. So thank you so much. But so talk to me about the dealership real estate today. You know, that was something that we had a conversation just yesterday with you prior to shooting today. And you said that is kind of a bone of contention with some sellers, that they want to maybe hold on to their real estate, you know, when they sell their dealerships.
You know, this is an interesting time for car dealers. Obviously, a lot of transactions happening. And surprisingly, we're not giving enough attention to the real estate part of the transaction. In my opinion, it's essentially 50% of the deal. And we have a lot of issues because what we're finding is a lot of dealers want to sell the operations and get the blue sky, of course, but they like to hold on to the real estate for that monthly income. Mm-hmm. So they want to lease the real estate and continue to own the real estate.
Yeah.
And that brings up a lot of different issues because the buyers typically, and every car dealer knows this, would like site control.
Yeah.
And in fact, some buyers won't even look at a deal if the real estate isn't part of the transaction.
Sure.
So the overall issue is, what do we do? Well, what's happening is we arrange, and it gets complicated, but we essentially arrange a sale leaseback for the new buyer for typically 10 years, okay, at which time the sale will occur. That's our normal compromise. Obviously, the buyer wants it for 5 years, and the seller wants it for 20 years. But
sure,
what's really happening is it's right around 10 years before the sale of the real estate transaction takes place. But these are typically triple net lease deals, mm-hmm, and this leads to some real complications. One deal we had where it was a rather substantial deal, and there were several different buildings, and the buyer did his due diligence and found out that the air conditioning system was pretty much shot, and the roof was leaking. So, you know, who's going to pay for those kinds of repairs? So that can be very expensive, and it becomes a bone of contention. Real estate is so important, and sometimes the rent will be more than market value, which will reduce the blue. So when people throw out numbers for blue, every deal stands on its own, just like politics. Every transaction is a separate transaction, stands on its own.
Yeah.
So you might have more put into the real lease arrangement and less for blue, mm-hmm, and the other way. So, and this is where a lot of the issues come up, and you actually have environmental issues because in the deals we do, you come down to only two contingencies in a buy-sell. One is manufacturer approval, of course, which is a critical function today.
Yeah, of course.
And two, environmental issues. So that can be another bone of contention. Typically do a phase one. 90% of the time it comes back okay. But what happens when there's a cleanup required?
Yeah.
Which could run into the multi-millions. So,
oh my gosh, wow.
Who pays for that?
Right.
So, so there's all kinds of it. And I'll add one more thing. When you submit your application to the factory for a transaction, the reality is, and dealers know this, and a legacy dealer may get away with not doing any improvements, but when the new buyer comes to the factory,
whole new ball game.
It's a whole new ball game,
right,
and that can become a big issue of contention there.
That's right.
So
they're looking for that new prototype building to be built in the next couple of years.
Right. They may have let the existing dealer get away with it. Right.
Yeah.
But the new guy,
Now they're wringing their hands, going, right? here's our opportunity to get that store we wanted.
Let's get it done. Right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
that can change the financial potential of the business.
Even in the event that the new buyer has to come in and build that new prototype building, then they know at least they're buying that property in 10 years.
Exactly. Right? That's how you satisfy that.
Yeah, so they're kind of improving their own property, even though they're leasing it, right?
And that's also an issue. Who's going to pay for those improvements?
Right, right.
That can become an issue. Are you going to add it to your lease, or since I know I'm going to have the building 10 years from now, sure, I'll pick up the cost.
The other thing too is that you're going to get a bank that says, yeah, well, we would normally finance those improvements for you, but you don't own the property right now. You're leasing it. So
right.
That's another kind of.
So you've got all kinds of complications coming in, sure, with the real estate.
Yeah.
Usually, the truth of the matter is, the blue sky is, the truth of the matter is not, it's not as critical as people would like you to believe.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily advise one way or the other. You don't necessarily tell your sellers early on, hey, don't try to hold on to the property because you just cut the market in half for the number of buyers for your store. And the other 50% of the buyers that are not interested because the real estate is not included could be your highest payers for this franchise in this market.
We're always looking for the best buyers. So if the best buyer wants to own the real estate, we advise our client, look, you're cutting your market opportunity here. Yeah. Our job is to find the best buyer, right?
Right.
If we're brokers, our job is to find the best buyer. And sometimes that best buyer is going to, and quite often is going to want the real estate.
That's right. That's right.
So
this reminds me of my sister who only wanted to sell her home to a family, to a husband and wife that had a family because she thought it was a perfect family home.
Right.
And she goes, that's the only people that I think would appreciate this house. So therefore, go look for those buyers. And meanwhile, as we all know, there might be a million families out there that haven't even started a family yet, maybe don't even plan to have a family, but it's a husband and wife
Jim,
situation.
You're raising a really interesting situation, which is when you're doing a deal with a public company, it's all dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Right. But typically, the great majority of deals are done with larger private dealers and smaller sellers, right?
Right.
And an important part of the transaction is trust. Mm-hmm. So we've had problems with deals when one side or both sides don't trust one another.
Yeah.
And sometimes if the buyer has developed a trusting relationship with the seller, typically we've seen it more than once where the better deal is chucked out the window and our client will take the deal from somebody he trusts more.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, I understand that. And especially as it relates to when it's a handshake that says, are you going to keep my GM? Are you going to keep my general sales manager, my fixed ops director? Or you promise you're going to keep them on board because I don't want to do them in by selling this. They go, oh, yeah, absolutely. No, we'll keep them. We love them. They're going to love the new culture. And then
that happens almost every time with children.
Right.
When the seller wants his kid to stay in and continue to be employed by the new owner.
Yeah, that usually doesn't go well.
And more often than not, the new owner says, fine, going to do it. I'll give him a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens at the end of 2 years.
That's right. That's
pretty conventional thing.
That's right. And usually the kid doesn't want to hang around either. I mean, it's a totally different ball game, right? From when mom and dad own the dealership to when now all of a sudden either some publicly traded company or some other private cap company comes along.
They don't want to, they don't want to work for some. Typically, car dealers, you can say this in generality, car dealers are 8 personalities.
Sure.
And typically, we find, going back to this trust factor, one of the issues is they don't want to work with a financial partner.
Right.
Typically, they don't want to work for anybody. The kids don't want to work for them. So that's one of the things that's happened. There's a lot of talk. I don't know if it's still going on about private equity coming into the business.
Yeah.
And you'll note that it hasn't been very successful because you got the manufacturer problems because manufacturers aren't crazy about private equity. And then you've got The dealers themselves typically don't like partners.
That's right. That's right. Hey, before I let you go here today, and I appreciate all the time you've given us, what's the outlook for 2024? Do you have a whole list of closings that are going to take place in your company for dealerships and
We
next
do right
year?
now. We do. You know something? I'm going to speak for Bel Air Partners.
Okay.
It's feast or famine. Some years we'll do 4, 5, 6 deals.
Yeah.
And other years we're lucky if we do 2 deals. So you never know for sure. But I think that with all the headwinds which you've addressed already, so we don't have to go into that.
Sure, sure.
With all the headwinds and then a maturing dealer body, I think that we'll still see deals going on. There's still a thirst. What's happened, and I know we don't have much time, what's happened is the bigger groups have made a lot of money in the past few years, and that they're using their excess bank account to buy. They want to buy new deals.
That's right.
So that's going to continue. But in my opinion.
For sure. And as one dealer friend said to me, "Oh, bring on the headwinds." He said, because that's when I love to buy stores. So, because we know this the one thing, and that is that the industry's coming back. It always does. It's you can't keep this industry down. I mean, look at all of the things we've been through in the last 3 years, and before that, with gas shortages and interest rates and economies that have fallen apart. And guess what? Dealers just keep coming out and succeeding through all of it. So
I've been telling clients, look, there's 5 years left in this business, so know that. I've been saying that for 20 years.
Yeah. There you go.
Been wrong. I've been wrong all this time. So.
That's right. That's right. That's like the sign at the bar that says "Free beer tomorrow," right?
Right.
So,
exactly. Right.
Sheldon Sandler, founder of Bel Air Partners, it's a company that you've probably heard of. You've been in the industry for any longer than a week. These guys do a great job. So, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Well, thank
today.
you. Thank you for hosting us, and look forward to more opportunities to be with you.